I never thought I'd be the kind of woman to lose control like this. I've always been careful, loyal, maybe even boring. Married for 17 years, 2 kids in college, a husband who travels more for work than he's home. We barely speak unless it's about bills or schedules. The passion left years ago, replaced with polite silence and routines. I told myself this was normal, that love just changes with time. But then Jason started coming around again. My best friend Dana's son. He's 22 now, grown, confident, and nothing like the awkward teenager I used to see in her backyard. Something shifted when he returned from college. He carried himself differently, spoke to me like I mattered, looked at me in a way that made me feel seen. I noticed the first time he called me gorgeous, while laughing about something trivial. Caught me off guard. I laughed too, but my heart skipped. I told myself he was just being sweet, but he kept doing it. Complimenting my hair, offering to help carry groceries in, lingering longer than needed after visiting with Dana. Once, while fixing the kitchen sink, his arm brushed mine. It lingered. I should have moved. I didn't. It made me feel alive. Like someone turned a light back on inside me that I forgot existed. I felt ashamed for even noticing, but I couldn't deny the pull. He wasn't just flirting. He was studying me, reading me like I was more than his mom's friend. There was one afternoon he stopped by alone, saying Dana had asked him to drop off a casserole dish she'd borrowed. I let him in, offered tea. He sat on the bar stool and just watched me like he was waiting for something. I felt it then, the tension. Thick and real. Not imagined. When I handed him the cup, our fingers touched. Neither of us moved right away. That moment stretched long, silent. I felt my breath hitch, my thoughts spiraling into places they shouldn't go. That night I lay in bed thinking about it. About how wrong it was, but also about how good it felt. I hadn't felt that wanted in years. My husband didn't even notice the new perfume I bought. Jason did. I started wearing it every time I knew he might come by. That's when I knew I was crossing a line, even if nothing had happened yet. It was all still hidden in looks, gestures, words left unsaid. But I knew what I was doing. I wasn't innocent. I was choosing to feel something again. Choosing to open a door I wasn't sure I could close once it swung even a little wider. And I told myself it was just curiosity, just attention. Nothing real. Nothing dangerous. But deep down, I already felt the danger humming underneath every glance. And I didn't stop. I didn't want to. It started with a message, short, casual, but deliberate. Jason asked if I'd be home later. Dana was out of town, and he had something to return. I knew what he meant. My stomach fluttered as I typed back, yes. I didn't ask what he was bringing. I didn't care. I straightened my hair, changed my top twice, dabbed perfume on my wrist. I told myself I wasn't planning anything, but I was lying. The doorbell rang, and the moment I saw him, I felt it again. That current between us, stronger than before. He looked at me like he knew every thought in my head. We didn't say much at first. I offered him a drink, he declined. We stood close, too close, pretending it was nothing. But his eyes kept flicking to my lips. He asked if I was happy. No one ever asks me that. I said I didn't know. He stepped closer. I could hear his breathing change. He said he thought about me more than he should. I should have stopped it then. I didn't. I asked why. He said I made him feel something real. That I wasn't like the girls he dated, shallow, surface level. I was a woman. That word landed differently than I expected. I didn't feel like one for a long time. He made me feel like one. I told him this couldn't happen. He nodded but didn't move. Said he'd leave if I asked him to. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Our silence gave permission. He reached for my hand and I let him. When his fingers laced with mine, I felt my body responding before my mind could resist. There was no more room for doubt. We kissed. Soft at first, then desperate. I didn't think about my marriage or Dana or anything except the way he touched me, like he meant it. Like he saw every part of me and still wanted more. It wasn't just physical. It was release. Escape. Reckless, forbidden, and exhilarating. Time folded into itself. I forgot the world outside the four walls of that moment. The guilt didn't hit immediately. That came later. Right then, all I felt was hunger. Emotional, not just physical. I hadn't been held like that in years. I hadn't been looked at like I was worth touching. He made me feel adored, desired, and worst of all, understood. When it was over, we didn't say much. He kissed my forehead and smiled. I smiled back, though my heart was pounding. He left quietly. As I locked the door behind him, I leaned against it and exhaled. What we did was wrong. But it didn't feel like a mistake. Not yet. It felt like the beginning of something I couldn't take back, and I wasn't sure I even wanted to. We thought we were careful. Thought the timing was perfect. Dana had taken her daughter to the dentist, my husband was out of town for a conference, and Jason texted to ask if I was alone. I said yes without hesitation. The door hadn't even closed behind him before the tension ignited. We didn't speak much. We didn't need to. Everything was understood. Every stolen look, every reckless decision had led to this. I wasn't thinking about consequences anymore. I just wanted to feel wanted again, just once more. But life doesn't wait for perfect moments. And that day it didn't. I heard the front door open, a shuffle of shoes, a voice, young female. My blood froze. Jason pulled back instantly, panic in his eyes. I barely had time to fix my blouse before I heard her say, "Mom forgot her purse." Then Dana's voice followed. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Jason stepped away like he'd been burned. Dana's eyes scanned the room, and in that single second, she saw everything. My flushed face. His shirt slightly untucked. The silence that screamed guilt. She didn't ask questions. Her mouth dropped open, then shut tight. Her hands clenched. Her daughter stood behind her, confused, asking what was going on. Jason tried to speak, but Dana raised her hand to silence him. Her eyes locked on mine, and the hurt I saw in them made my chest tighten. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. But the betrayal on her face was louder than any words could have been. I tried to say something. Anything. But what excuse could I possibly give? What defense exists for something this cruel? She stepped forward, close enough for me to see the tremble in her jaw. How long? She asked, her voice brittle. I couldn't answer. My silence answered for me. She stared at Jason next, like she didn't recognize him. "You're my son," she whispered. "How could you do this?" Jason's eyes dropped to the floor. Dana turned away from both of us. Her daughter grabbed her arm, asking again what happened. Dana didn't reply. She just walked out, her daughter trailing behind. The door slammed so hard the picture frames rattled. Jason sat down on the edge of the couch, head in his hands. I stood in the middle of the room, stunned. The air was heavy. I couldn't breathe. What just happened wasn't some romantic secret anymore. It was a wreckage. A friendship destroyed. A family fractured. Jason finally looked up and said he was sorry. I nodded, but that didn't matter anymore. Sorry wouldn't fix what we'd done. The damage had already spread. And all I could think about was how fast everything unraveled. One mistake, one door opening too soon, and the fantasy was gone. Only the consequences remained.